There we go.
I believe I negotiated a solution with the Affordable Housing Trust because they're not holding a public hearing tonight, so they can switch to another Zoom platform. I'm a little apprehensive that we may have lost some of the folks who wanted to attend a public meeting, in which case we're in some violation. Why don't we give this a minute or two and see if every project has representatives here tonight. Let's see, Henry, Olga, Jeff, Gordon, and Olga. Good. We are only missing David. There's David. Apologize about that. Apparently Gail or somebody double booked that Zoom platform for 2 meetings starting at 6:30. So every time they started their meeting, it ended ours, and vice versa. And let me just ask and confirm that there are folks here for 6 Ashland Avenue. I believe that's right.
Yep.
Yes. 39 Coolidge Point. I see nobody from Griffin Engineering.
I'm here, Griffin Engineering. Sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry about that.
12 Boardman. I see John Gurley. That's a start. Good evening. And 110 Bridge Street. That's Prescott.
Yep.
Super. Do we have anybody here from the Magnolia Beach, 43 through 76 Raymond? No. And Susan, I don't know who you are, but go ahead, unmute yourself. And
It's Susan St. Pierre. I'm just kind of listening in, but I kept getting kicked out, so the people from 6 Ashland might have been having problems logging in.
I think
I got kicked out of the Zoom meeting like 4 times.
Yeah, I understand that. It was none of our fault.
Okay.
The town had double booked the Zoom platform, so every time the Affordable Housing Trust started their meeting, ours was
Oh,
ended, and vice
okay.
versa.
So they'll probably be here shortly.
Good. I'm glad you're here. Well, then let's start belatedly. It's 6:37 on December 17th, and this is the regular meeting of the Manchester Conservation Commission held under the auspices of the Wetlands Protection Act and the local general wetlands bylaw. We're here with 2 missions: to protect the wetland resources and to serve our neighbors. Tonight's meeting is conducted on Zoom, so that means if you're showing video, your video will be recorded. It's your option. There will be public hearing and opportunity for public comment. I'll indicate when that is, and if you have something to say, please indicate by raising your hand physically or digitally on Zoom, and wait till I call on you, then state your name and address or affiliation and your question or comment. Please try to keep your comments to 2 minutes or less. We have a chat function, but we'll ask you to use it only for technical issues, because nothing substantive, questions or comments, would enter the record from the chat. Finally, we'll conduct all votes tonight by roll call, and I'll begin by taking attendance. Dr. Henry Ottinger.
Here.
Dr. Olga Hayes.
Here.
Dr. Jeffrey Bodmer Turner.
Here.
Dr. Gordon Turner.
Here.
Mr. David Lumsden.
Here.
And I'm Steve Gang. Sari Oseason, our vice chair, is under the weather and taken to bed instead of Zoom. But I know the quorum is present, and so we'll begin with notices of intent unless anyone has any announcements.
Steve, do you have a co-host?
I would be honored if you would be my co-host.
So there's people who are trying to get in.
Yep. There is no waiting room. That's something we have to add if we think of it before the meeting. It's not default for the town. So they can just barge in, which is not my preference, having had one of our meetings Zoom bombed a few years ago.
One or more.
Yeah, one or more. Okay, our first notice of intent is we open the public hearing with 6 Ashland Avenue, map 44 lot 6, DEP file 39-923, the continuation for the Creightons. And Lucas is here.
Yep. Hi, Lucas Taylor with GZA, located at 144 Elm Street in Amesbury, representing the proponents at 6 Ashland Avenue. I think we also have Susan St. Pierre and possibly even Lolly. Believe she may have tuned in as well.
We did have Lolly. Oh, yes, we still do. Excellent.
Yep. So we got a few of
And
us today. So
myself
and
is the
Peter.
applicant.
Great. Well, you're welcome to share the screen if you need it. But as you know, we had a site visit over the weekend.
Yep.
And there may be some questions coming from that, or you may want to bring us up to date on things like the questions that came back from DEP.
Sure. Yeah, so like you mentioned, since last meeting, we all had a site visit with the commission on December 7th, nice chilly morning. Following that meeting, we submitted a habitat planting plan to you all. I'm not sure if you received, but we did submit that.
We did.
Okay. So I guess, from there, the overall project hasn't changed. So, we'll open up to questions. If you want to, part of your questions want to run through the DEP or anything that stuck out to you all relating to DEP's comments, we can run through those if you prefer.
I wonder what changed in the planting plan you submitted since your original.
So that habitat planting plan specifically called out actual species. In addition to, it slightly expanded that southeastern planting area by the manhole, if you remember that manhole corner. So it enlarged that area a bit, which also ties into an existing planting bed. And we also are proposing to add 2 additional northern bayberries up in the northwestern corner, kind of where the wall ended. There's kind of an opening there.
Thank you. Well, I'd certainly like to hear how you responded. I think DEP had a technical question, which was the delineation of coastal bank. And they also had a more elaborate question about flood storage and changes in flood
Sure.
flows.
Yeah, so starting with the coastal bank. So they had a comment on coastal bank not at the site, and we felt that it is not at the site. The seawall itself, per the regulatory definitions, is not a coastal bank. It's in a coastal engineering structure. And then landward of that seawall, the existing grade is less, the slope is less than 1/10. So that constitutes as land subject to coastal storm flowage up to that FEMA flood line, the FEMA 100-year flood line. So it does not meet the coastal bank definition. And then I think there are other comments, which I believe we touched upon on the site visit, talking about floodwaters on the site, existing and the proposed conditions. So there won't be any proposed changes to the floodwater flow paths in and out of the site. If floodwaters go beyond the new seawall height and enter the upland area of the site pitches to either the north and the south sides. So kind of the hugs the property lines. That's the natural grading of the site. That's not going to change. So the waters would flow to the north and the south along the property line edges down towards the harbor. So that would be maintained. That would continue. There'd be no changes with that. And in fact, by restoring the landside grade immediately landward of the wall, that actually reduces a little bit of the slope. So it actually might reduce the velocities slightly, minimally.
And is there any issue with the amount of flood storage if you raise the grade in the wall?
No, it's like a flood pool. So, when the harbor comes up, the site will be flooded. And then as it recedes, it'll like I said, it'll pitch to the north and south and flow out.
Gotcha. I guess maybe others are not, but I'm a little surprised that you didn't try to delineate the coastal bank, because I can't figure out how we would define the resource or the buffer zones without at least an artificial definition, as we've seen in other cases where the land has been very disturbed. We even had the wall of a tennis court serve as the official coastal bank in property on Masconomo, if I remember correctly. And I guess the question is, how do we define the protected resource and buffer zones without a delineation?
You have the coastal beach that goes right up to the wall. So you'd have your buffer zones from the edge, from essentially the bottom of the seawall landward.
So you're stipulating there isn't any coastal bank here. Yeah. Okay. You know this better than I do. Any other questions from the commissioners?
I do. I have a question. You're going to be raising that wall in places to 8 feet. I did not look carefully when we were on the site visit as to the height of the seawalls around the harbor to compare. Did you do that?
A little bit. So looking at like online available LiDAR, it's tough to tell, but from the LiDAR, it looks like existing walls range from elevation 6 all the way up to elevation 10, depending on where you are. The adjacent deck, that Manchester Marine deck, that's almost 1.5 feet above the proposed wall height. It's a little over elevation 9.4. So that's about 1.5 feet higher than what the proposed wall is going to be. I know the town revetment across the harbor is at elevation 8, the top of the revetment. And then there's that town wall that goes along the boat ramp. That's actually a little over elevation 8. So that's a little bit higher than what the proposed wall will be. But again, these walls vary. We didn't survey them all, just kind of going off of projects that we had before or available online information.
Mm-hmm.
My other question is what is a 404? I'm not familiar with that one.
That should be referring to the Clean Water Act, section 404. So both the 404 would be addressed with an Army Corps general permit that would fall under the Army Corps' jurisdiction. And then as for, I think DEP had a comment about Chapter 91 permit. We'd have to look a little closer about the thresholds with that, but the project does need a new Chapter 91 license. And if it's deemed that we do need a Chapter 91 permit, that's a combined application. So that would be addressed at the same time as the licensing of the wall.
Okay. Gordon, you have a question?
Yeah, I had 2 questions. Thanks. I guess I recalled from the original application, there was talk about maybe raising the wall 1 or 2 feet, and now there's talk of 4 feet. And so I'm just wondering if you can clarify for me, what am I misunderstanding about what we talked about 2 weeks ago and at the site visit, and what the DEP comments are relating to?
Yeah, I think the DEP got a little confused. So the existing wall height was originally, or is at elevation 6 to 7 feet and a VD 88 datum, but that's the current condition before it's deteriorated. The leaning sections, they've sloughed off, they failed.
Sure.
Those might be around the elevation 4 to 5 currently.
I see.
But the existing wall was built at elevation 6 to 7. It varies based on the
And I think
stone.
you had pointed to a section of the wall that would essentially remain untouched, and
Correct.
that's sort of the height you're trying to get to. Am I understanding that, or is it going to be a bit above that?
It would still go up to elevation 8. So that section that is staying, it's still adding a small capstone about 1 foot to 2 feet high to get up to that new elevation 8.
Okay, so that's helpful. Thank you for explaining that.
Yep.
And then I guess my
Yep.
second question has to do with the idea that the flooding is not, or the storm flowage is not going to change. And I guess I'm having trouble understanding that, because you're really talking about adding a fair bit of dirt to the area behind the wall, raising it up a bit. And now it just seems like you're going to have more flowing down off the sides, and seems like there's a potential for more erosion and things like that. So I guess I'm curious how that's going to be dealt with, or if I'm
Yeah, existing grades existing grade up against the wall is coming up a foot. So there's still, you're gonna have a wall, and then you're gonna have a step down on the land side. So the new grade isn't coming up to the very, very top of the new wall height. And it tapers off. If you remember that large tree on the property, so it tapers off to nothing. So we're taking that elevation right around that tree, the high point, and we're smoothing, making a nice, very faint 1 to 2% pitch to the seawall.
Okay,
That would be the proposed plan.
okay.
So
But
I
instead
think
of the water
DP was-
flowing
yeah.
out off the wall, it's gonna have to go around the sides, and it just feels like that could lead to some additional erosion. And I don't know if that's been dealt with plantings, or if you have a plan for how to deal with that. But
Yeah, well, that one southeast corner already has a planter bed, and that's the one that we are proposing to expand and make larger.
okay,
So that whole side has existing planter bed, and then it would be expanded upon. And then we also were that new habitat planting plan is proposing 2 northern bayberries at that north western end where the wall ended.
Mhm.
So that would be another area where
okay.
you'd have additional plantings.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
Other questions or comments from the commission? I guess I have one final question, which is, normally when we're dealing with a no disturb zone that has been converted to lawn, we would require mitigation and native plant materials there, both for long-term protection of the bank and habitat. I realize there's some traffic pattern through there to get to the dock, so it would obviously have to accommodate a walk. But as a environmentalist, what's your argument for keeping it as perennial ryegrass with the requirement of irrigation and fertilizer and weed control and other things which generally we would go to great lengths to avoid in the no disturb zone?
I mean, I think this site is also unique, has a sewer line running through it, which is directly in that no disturb zone. So I think that's also a unique case.
That's hardly unique in Manchester.
Yeah. I suppose in this case, yeah, it goes right around the harbor.
You're worried about root intrusion or something?
Possibly. I don't know if Lolly, you want to touch a little more about some of the plantings, but I guess one further comment if she wants to hand it off. But there's over 875 square feet of existing planter bed on the site as is. So it's kind of a balancing act of utilizing,
that's part of the puzzle for me. It's so beautifully landscaped elsewhere, and you'd think this area, which is the most environmentally sensitive spot on the property, would be entitled to, at least equal treatment. But go ahead, tell me why not. I don't think the sewer line is endangered by shrubs and native grasses and those sort of things.
Well, I could speak to the fact that the areas adjacent to the proposed wall have a broad amount of crushed stone underneath for drainage, which is actually going to help with the fact that water is going to come over the walls in storms. But that crushed stone is 6 inches below the lawn. We can plant in those areas, but we can only plant things that are going to be very shallowly rooted. So one option, which when the owner hasn't agreed, I haven't spoken with the owner about, but one option is to use a grass like Carex pennsylvanica, or to just use some very shallowly rooted plants that will have not a lot, but they will slow water down. And it also is, it is land that has been developed for a long time. So historically, it's been grass. I can't say that that's the right thing, but it is part of the family's area to play and run around, and grass is an important part of having children play in their own backyards. So,
Agreed. Well, I for one would be either in favor of creating a no mow zone there, no irrigation, no fertilizer or pesticides,
mhm.
with allowance to create a pathway to the dock, or re-landscaping with something other than perennial ryegrass and weeds, to create a better solution. How do others on the commission feel about this?
Can I weigh in being the applicant?
Just let me see if I'm out on a limb here, so to speak, because I do find myself there occasionally.
Steve, I'm just trying to compare this to some other recent ones where there was already landscape lawn and things like that in a disturbed zone, and I'm not sure we required those applicants to change the lawn, but there were mitigation plantings elsewhere. Is that what you're referring to, or are you suggesting the
No, I'm
lawn
thinking
itself?
of areas, 58 Masconomo, or it's not C Street, but it was near there, where we required that lawn area be returned to natives because it was in the no disturb.
Oh, I
And,
see, because it's so close to the edge of the,
It didn't,
yeah.
it didn't, it reduced the amount of mowed grass available for croquet and running around, but it didn't eliminate the recreation, as I hope it wouldn't here. It's a little hard to tell where the no disturb zone is. I guess we could look back at the plans and infer it even without a coastal bank.
Yeah, Steve, I'd be in favor of a portion going to resume as natural, and then perhaps a portion for that could be, a mowed area.
Okay, others?
I think I would agree, or use some species that can be trampled for play.
Yeah.
Either grasses or ground covers that can be used. That would allow, so it would feel like a lawn, but it isn't actually lawn, it's actually other species. And Lolly, I have no idea whether I'm inventing a new species here.
Well, Carex pennsylvanica or Carex appalachia is a very effective species to use that way.
Okay,
You can walk on it, and it stays green in the winter. And it has very fine blade. It's a very fine texture. It's like it's a very fine fescue of sorts. It's like
Yeah, I was just going to say a fescue would work there too, probably.
Yeah.
And if you didn't mow it, you'd have 4 inches of grass instead. It wouldn't be waist high.
Exactly. It won't be terribly tall. So I think we could look at something like that, but Mr. Creighton gets to weigh in.
Yes, I can see Peter.
Well,
Why don't we
yeah,
let
I
you
think
speak up?
I think the comment that I have is that we aren't expanding the wall. We're not building a brand new expansive wall and having a huge footprint. Right now, there is a wall that's falling apart. There's a significant amount of gravel land side of that, with the lawn that's there, and a gravel apron or piece, and so we're just replacing what's there. We're not adding a super thick wall. We're not going up enormously with height. And so I think your initial question was, is there rationale for the additional planting beds, but not going beyond that? And I think that would be my response, that we've expanded one planting bed on the Manchester Marine Sunset Rock side. And then we've added another planting bed on the other side, but I haven't looked at the square footage, but I think anything, if you look at the apron, it would be the same size or even a little bit smaller. So we're not expanding the disturbing or the disturbance of the backyard of the area with this new wall.
Steve, I have a comment, a
David?
question. So I'm very sympathetic to the homeowner, Peter, rebuilding his stone wall. You know, it's obvious all over town, these retaining walls are deteriorating and the rising waters are increasingly causing damage to property fronts along the ocean. What I don't understand is, has there been any precedent by this committee in the past for raising a rock wall along the ocean's edge? Can any member of this committee think of another case where we've allowed the raising of a rock wall in a harbor situation or on the ocean's edge? Raising the height?
We will be below the other wall. The other walls right now in the harbor, inner harbor area, I don't believe any of them fully flood. We are the only wall now and yard that does flood with water coming in. And so with the new wall, we will flood as well. But looking at the McFaddens, the Hans, Randy Wood, going around, I don't believe any of those, they're high enough up, they're above even what our finished product would be, that they flood into the yard of all those other houses. Our yard will continue to flood with the new higher wall that we're proposing. The water will come in under the building with seaweed sticks, whatever, and that's part of it that we've discussed. But we still, I think we will be the only wall in the harbor that still will flood, even with the new height.
And I'm very sympathetic to that. And Peter, I sold my former house because I had the same problem. However, I know we've turned down other homeowners in town who have asked to raise their walls. And I'm wondering, I'm sympathetic to this, but I'm thinking this may be a precedent-setting decision. And I'm wondering, is it in fact, is that the case? Steve, you've been on the committee a long time. Olga, much longer than I have.
I can think of only examples, David, where we've allowed a capstone, which might have been there previously, but storm damage had erased it. But you think of the property on Whittier Cove, the Summer Bridge Street property that goes all the way through across the railroad. They were rebuilding probably the oldest wall in Manchester, dating back to the days before the harbor was dredged. And they were sticking to the historical height. Same thing with the comb work alongside the harbor, inner harbor off Proctor Street. So I think you're right. On the other hand, we are dealing with rising ocean levels and increasing storm intensity and surges. So like you, I'm sympathetic to the need. We're probably going to face more of these in the future. Certainly our colleagues up in Newburyport and Rowley and other places have already faced it with, severe erosion situations.
I feel it is a temporary fix because of the rising oceans. And I think in this situation where these walls are actually lower than the rest of the walls in the inner harbor, I don't have a problem with this.
Yeah,
Can we return to the?
It doesn't sound like this is being done to stop flooding, right? The
Right.
applicant expects it will still flood, and it's not like he's building a fortress to prevent that.
Jeff,
so.
your suggestion?
Can we return to the discussion that we were having about the border before we went back to height? I'd like to get clarification for what's the width of the band of gravel behind the wall? I'm looking at the plans and it's hard for me to discern.
About 3 feet below grade.
It's about
3 feet
below
wide,
grade.
but it's below the lawn.
And that's all 6 inches or more beneath the soil.
Correct.
Right, and then your mild regrading will happen back about another 15 feet. Or a little more, 20.
Yeah, I think max, Steve, it probably extends it up to 20 feet
Yep.
landward of the wall.
Okay, so my 2 cents about the border area vegetation is that there's a whole manicured lawn that's behind the building. There is the expansive lawn that goes out to the seawall in front of the building. And we're talking about a 3-foot border that will be more secured and less damaging to the drainage if it were done in something other than replacement of manicured lawn. And I think about a project we recently did. I think it's Coolidge Point. That was on the harbor side of Coolidge Point, where we required shrubbery to actually be built, to be installed along the back of a seawall that was being repaired. And I don't see that this is such a loss to play area or anything else for a 3-foot band of need to say better grass than manicured lawn.
And our reasoning, Jeff, at Coolidge Point was that we felt that they wouldn't be coming back to us so often if they had some plantings for the repair of the wall, if there were plantings behind it to hold things in place.
To hold the soil together.
Yeah,
Exactly.
This
and
is a
they're
little bit different situation because
they're
this
subject to wave action.
Right.
this is a little bit different. Yes, it's subject to wave action, which this property is not so much.
Yeah.
And there's much more gravel drainage behind this wall than there was behind that wall. But I still think that it makes more sense to put in the kind of grasses that Lully's recommending and not be mowing them down to 2 inches or whatever.
Well, unless there's other comment, I think we can take this up. I don't hear fundamental objections to the permitting this project. I hear argument about how to condition the landscaping
Yeah.
in the no disturb zone and particularly immediately behind the wall. So I'm going to ask for public comment if there is any on 6 Ashland, and then see if the commission's ready to close the hearing. Anybody want to comment on 6 Ashland Avenue, seawall and mild regrading? I hear none. Commission ready to vote on, or is there more information you would like?
Ready to vote?
So I'll move we close the hearing on 6 Ashland Avenue, DEP file 39-923, I think. Is there a second?
Second that.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, Gordon?
Aye.
Thank you. David?
Aye.
It's hard, like pulling teeth. Henry?
Aye.
Olga?
Aye.
Jeff?
Hi.
And I am an aye as well, so it is unanimous. I recommend we just let this marinate for a few minutes while we look at some other projects and then return to discussion of conditions for this. If that's acceptable to people.
Yes.
Okay, so let's turn our attention to 39 Coolidge Point Avenue, map 3, lot 27, DEP file 39-922. This is also a continuation for installing a prefabricated pool with a pool deck and landscaping and a drainage system. And somebody is here tonight for 39 Coolidge, yes?
That's me, Sean McDonald, Griffin Engineering.
Hi, Sean.
how you
Thanks for
doing?
coming.
Yep, no problem. So I think you guys are familiar with the site. You guys had a site walk a week or two ago.
Exactly. Any
So-
questions or follow-ups from commission members about the site visit? Jeff, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you did have a good question.
Go ahead, Steve, put words in my mouth. My question was, most of the impervious bluestone pool deck that's being added for this project falls within the 100-foot buffer. And my question was, we saw the site, we saw where the shed is and where the ledge is and where the walkway is, that is behind the pool, going back up Coolidge Point Avenue. But is there any reason why I don't want the pool to be shifted into the buffer zone, but the deck couldn't be shifted to the other side of the pool?
I think that was the way it was laid out, for aesthetic purposes. I also think there's a lot of ledge. I can pull up the site plan for you guys if you want me to share here.
That would be good. I'm looking at it, but it might be
Okay.
helpful to the other commissioners.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would help to have it on screen. Thank you.
Okay. So here's the plan here. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so you're saying flip it over to the walkway on the other side. Our plan shows, a significant amount of ledge over there. It's possible it could be built in that area, but I think the area that's currently lawn is possibly more suitable for this type of activity. I know there's some trees around there that could provide shade a little more than on the other side, and I think this is just where the applicant had wanted the pool deck to be.
I understand that, but that's introducing a large amount of impervious area into the resource.
Okay. Let's see. I mean, we are mitigating the impervious area by, installing a dry well. So there's going to be no additional, runoff from this area. We won't be increasing erosion in any way. I don't think it's going to be too harmful to the environment. It's existing lawn. It'll be converted to patio. There's numerous plant beds around the property. There's an extensive amount of planting along the coastal bank. I think you guys saw another
Yeah.
plant down here. So I don't think, this area of lawn is going to be too detrimental if we change that to a pool deck with, stormwater management. But I see your point.
Other
Was
questions?
this part of the alternatives analysis?
There's no alternatives analysis required unless you're in the inner buffer zones
Right, okay.
under the bylaw. Not that it's, I'm sure people think about it anyway, and we often have discussions about whether it's possible to shift the project design somewhat so that less or none of the permanent impact is in the buffer. Answer your question. If I remember correctly, that is an area of exposed ledge outcrop to
There
the
was
north.
a small area here. You can see it on the plan. There was a small chunk of ledge where the pool is going that will have to be removed. Just in
And
that
a
area.
larger one to the
Yeah.
northeast, northwest.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, over here too. There's actually some more to the southeast as well.
Yes. I mean, it's clear that moving the pool deck, if it's going to be of any size, to the other side requires kind of reconfiguring the other aspects of the property and possibly having a multi-level deck to accommodate that ledge. So it's not a simple solution.
It's also not as accessible to the house if you flip it over.
Yeah, possibly. Other comments from the commission? Questions?
Given that there is ledge, Steve, I was wondering, what are the applicant's thoughts on different removal methods for that ledge, and if there were conditions mandating hand tools and things like that? Is that something that you can work with? What are the typical kind of restrictions that we would see there? Or maybe for the other commissioners, what are your
We would
thoughts on-
normally require that you tell us if blasting is required and that you get the necessary fire department and other permits, supervision, monitoring, etc. But as I remember, Sean's response was, you're not envisioning blasting, you're envisioning hammering.
Right.
Okay.
And doing it at seasonal low point for disturbing neighbors.
Okay, so we would just condition that and then hope that that's what is required and doesn't need more than that. once you
Yeah,
get into it.
Gordon, and if it needs more, they would have to come back to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although one suspects from the plans that the hammering is outside our jurisdiction. So I'm not sure how, other than, common sense kind of things, I don't know how we can influence it.
Let me see.
Anybody else? Any comments or questions from the public about 39 Coolidge Point? I am hearing none. So, commission ready to vote to close this hearing?
Yep,
Fine, I'll hear a motion.
I move that we close the public hearing of 39 Coolidge Point Ave, map 3, lot 27, DEP file 0390922.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Jeff?
Aye.
Gordon? Thank you. That's an
Aye.
aye. David?
Aye. Thank you. Yeah.
Aye.
Henry?
Aye.
Olga?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. So that is unanimous. Shall we take a peek at conditions for this? We have the benefit of our absent vice chair's preparation of a draft, which I've been over briefly. Yeah, there it is. Let me share my screen. Easier said than done. Okay. That's not the right one. That's the right one. Can you see it?
Yeah,
Yes,
yes,
And is it legible?
yes.
yes.
Okay, so there's some typos to fix, but there's the boilerplate findings, boilerplate general conditions. Reconstruction, I think the only thing that's added here is that we require a certificate of compliance if the other work is still open. I suspect it's already been obtained. Do you know, Sean, if that's been closed out?
I think we still need to file the certificates of compliance for the other NOIs.
Okay, well, that would be a good move then. Um, Construction pollution prevention plan. We allow equipment storage, fuel storage, refueling and lubrication operations, but as far from the coastal bank as practical. We have to fix that, not to protect Days Creek. Pick the coastal bank. Post construction. Now, special conditions. I follow the pollution prevention plan. If any wood is used, it'll only be untreated wood. I don't remember any landscaping elements of wood in this plan. Tree work overseen by a licensed arborist. Machinery kept as far as possible from coastal bank. Mitigation plantings with 85% survivability for 2 seasons with reports. No toxic substances. Yeah, here's another sentence that's unneeded. De-icing chemicals to the extent they're needed there. And we are stipulating here a low chlorine method such as ultraviolet. Is that what the applicant envisions, Sean, or do you know?
I'm not sure the cleaning method of the pool. I know it's a fiberglass pool, so I think the options are, you can pretty much do anything with the fiberglass pool, but
Right.
I'm not 100% sure what the method they had planned.
Okay, well, we'll put in low chlorine and requirement of dissipating before dewatering. Selection of some of the conditions as perpetual, including operation and maintenance for the stormwater management. There are no pervious features on this project, right?
No,
Right.
No. So stormwater management, mitigation planning remains vegetated. And I think we've called for monumenting. No, we have not called for monumenting in this case. That's because all of it is going to be continued to be landscaped and maintained. Okay, any questions, suggestions, edits, additions to this?
so should we also add the pool maintenance and drainage in the perpetual? Or it's fine up there?
I think it's reserved there. 31 through 37. Yep, it's reserved because it's
Oh, okay,
36.
okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good catch. 35 can actually come out, but if there are no pervious surfaces, then it doesn't have any effect. Leave it in. Okay, commissioners ready to vote on this then?
Yep,
Can we take that out, Steve?
Say again?
5,
You said that could come out. Could we take it
Yes,
out?
it could come out. Yep. You have to renumber.
I'm sorry about the renumber.
Okay. Why don't I just make it a contingent one? Not the most elegant wording, but you get the point. Going once, going twice.
Send it.
I move we grant an order of conditions for 39 Coolidge Point, DEP file 39-922, with the standard and special and perpetual conditions just shown.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Olga?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Thank you. Gordon?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Henry?
Aye.
And I am an aye. It is unanimous. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Commission ready to turn back to 6 Ashland?
Yes.
Okay. Once again, we have a draft from largely from Suri with a little bit of input from me, which I will share. Okay. The findings, as expected, the boilerplate general conditions, pre-construction visits, and we have in here obtain and document compliance with the town tree policy, but there is no tree removal proposed here, right? So let's take that out. Well, that didn't work very well, did it? Well, we'll do some renumbering when we issue this.
Yeah, there's actually not, I don't think there's any harm in leaving it. It's if it's a compliance with a standard, Steve.
Okay. Back in. All work done from land side is specific to this project. Temporary cover. Locate your equipment and refueling as far from the coastal bank as practical. Debris. This one would have monuments.
Yes.
Well, if we specify areas that require no mowing. So this is drafted to say within the no disturb zone, which goes most of the way back to the what do you call it, studio, Peter, the outbuilding.
Just past the
That's
willow
not-
tree.
Yeah, just past the willow tree. So that's one option. Another is what I think what Jeff was talking about, to have a border of grass or shrub that can be shallow rooted, but would provide some additional velocity break and potential habitat.
That's what I would,
The third would be to have some patches of it. I think that was what Lolly was thinking of. Go ahead, Olga.
well, that's what I was thinking of, like put it behind the wall there, a strip of it.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds sensible to me. That might be a safety factor for children, and plus it would allow him to continue to use that back area as a play area for his kids.
Good point. Good points. And I believe the wall is gonna it's gonna be visible above the grade for some distance. I don't remember whether we were told it's a foot or 2 feet.
1 foot.
1 foot, yeah. So it'll soften that element of it.
What kind of
see a
monuments are
hand.
we talking about here, Steve?
Pardon?
What kind of monuments are we talking about?
Well, we're generally accommodating whatever applicant wants to use, but something, relatively permanent, wood, large, post or small granite monument. We've sometimes, because of the need to really enforce, you can think of a couple of cases on Proctor where that was the case, we've required boulders so that it actually isn't possible to mow around beyond them. Well, I doubt if that's required here.
No, I don't think so.
Susan St. Pierre, I think your hand is up. Is it in relation to 6 Ashland?
Yes.
Okay,
On that condition that you're talking about, we just want to make sure that they have access to the, their gangway, and
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
so there'll be a gap of the planting.
there ought to be a gap or some stepping stones or something that get you through the higher grass.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is now going to say something like,
Yeah, 28, Steve can say within the no disturb zone, existing lawn shall be replaced with native shrubs and ground covers, but for a 3-foot clearing, 3-foot wide clearing to the existing dock, float, whatever they call it,
yeah.
here.
Are we talking about the full 30 feet or are we talking about a band
Ben,
along the wall? I thought we were talking about a band. How wide? 4 feet? Something like that?
3 seems reasonable to me.
Okay.
existing lawn shall be replaced with a 3-foot wide band.
Behind the wall.
Well, it's not going to be replaced. It's going to be mowed to accommodate access to the dock.
Well, that's the second point. First, we got to establish the band. Existing lawns will be replaced behind the wall with a 3-foot
Yes, my bad.
band of native shrubs and ground covers, except for a passage to the dock and floats, which may be mowed or
Which may be mowed for access.
yeah, which may be mowed.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm not sure we need monuments to protect a 3-foot strip.
No.
No.
Good. Seems to be asking a lot. Okay, post-construction, let's,
I had a quick question if that's all right.
yes, go ahead, Lucas.
So under that condition, talking about native shrubs and ground covers, would that, I know earlier we talked about some fescue type or the Pennsylvanica carex. Is that
Eric's, yep.
similar species, like a grass type ground cover
Mhm.
that's
Yes.
native?
That's what Lolly was talking about.
That would still constitute under this condition?
Yeah, why don't we make that clear with shrubs and or
Yeah.
ground covers?
Let's make that the band shall consist of. Actually, I guess we want the band to consist of that, and we want the
Mhm.
lawn to consist of that.
I'm not following. How much of the lawn are you talking about?
Is Lolly still on? Can that be like mowed?
Not the 3-foot band.
No, I'm saying
This is
like,
what
Peter, I'm trying to help you,
Yep.
keep one thing, consistent. If that's mowable, then just use it for the lawn and the band.
I think if you went with either Carrick's or with other fescues, you can mow it if you want to. It's the virtue of it is you don't need to. If you let it grow up to its mature height, which is fairly short, like 4 or 5 inches, it's different looking, but not unattractive at all, and requires no irrigation or etc. A more
Sure.
natural piece of landscaping. And not dense or thorny enough to lose, a baseball or a frisbee or something in it. So, Henry, are you content with 28 as it reads?
Yeah, well, I'm not. The only reason is, so Lolly had mentioned, species like I wasn't familiar with, but I'm happy to put in. But why don't we just say what the ground cover will be, and they can be mowed in the area, in the lawn area, and then left
Yes.
unmowed in the 3-foot band.
Why not leave it up to them what kind of shallow rooting material they want there? I mean, I'm not carrying a torch for it being 3 inches high or 3 feet high. It would be up.
Let's just call it a native species.
Yep.
Yep,
Okay.
that sounds fine.
Good. And to be technical, if it was mowed in the fall, that wouldn't be a terrible thing either.
No, but we never said that.
Right. Okay, post-construction and special conditions are the standard construction period pollution prevention plan. Tree work, we do not need. Invasive removal, we do not need. Survival of plantings, yes. I think it's a good idea to minimize nitrogen and phosphorus and any pesticides or herbicides in this
Yes.
area. And we'll take out the I don't think de-icing chemicals are going to come into play, but no harm in leaving it. Hazardous material, that's a good idea because of the flood.
Steve, why did
frequency.
you take out that last statement?
Because we're not requiring monumenting here.
But
I
we
think
do
it's
want to
needed.
require that there's no mowing or chemicals.
Well, no chemicals. Well, for the 3-foot strip, yes, but we assumed it didn't. It's small enough not to require a monument. Am I wrong there?
No, I don't think that needs a monument.
Okay. And for the sake of the harbor and water quality, it would be great to minimize the use of high-powered, quick-release fertilizers or pesticides or herbicides within at least the 50 feet. No build and no disturb.
Yeah, that's part of standard conditions, is it not, Steve?
Usually, yes. I can't think of exceptions to it.
Is it in the standard conditions up above?
No, it's in special conditions, but that's because I'm not sure why. Actually, it's because it's usually associated with mitigation plantings and the extent of impact to the buffer zones.
Okay, so can we leave in the applicant shall assume responsibility of informing and any landscaping or gardening contractors working on the property.
Good point.
Because I just don't want to see a situation.
Yeah, this sort of,
that was
I didn't tell
on,
him, he didn't tell
Old
me.
Neck
Yeah,
Road.
good. Good catch. Everybody understand that? So it won't be monumented, but it'll remain it does remain a perpetual condition with the property. Hazardous material storage, additional, and then I'm not sure we need a long-term do we need a long-term operation and maintenance plan here? None has been proposed, I don't think, Lucas, such as, you know, chinking, remortaring, seasonal repair of the wall. Hopefully, with no wave action, it's not going to require that kind of stuff. But mitigation areas can remain. Anybody see the need for a O&M plan here?
No,
No,
gone.
Gone. So we will conform these, but the idea is perpetual is now 30, 32, 3, 4,
30
5,
something, let's
6.
call it.
Yeah. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6.
No, 7.
This is 7. I think that's right. So we're leaving out the construction period and the growth survivorship period. And yep, okay. Let me just take us back through the special and perpetual. Looks okay to me.
Steve,
Any final suggestions?
do we need to condition anything about the various permits that are required, or we just let that
I
process
think those
take
are,
its course?
those are in our standards here
Oh, okay.
for
Okay.
anything else we want to call out. I mean, this one was meant to be comprehensive. Doesn't mention coastal zone management, but it's implied if it's needed.
And 91 is included in that, Steve.
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Corps of Engineers. All right, so I move we issue this order of conditions with the pertinent special and perpetual conditions for 6 Ashland Avenue, DEP file 39-923.
Second,
Thank you. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Henry?
Aye.
Gordon?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Olga?
aye.
Jeff?
Hi.
And I am an aye. Unanimous once again. Thank you, Lucas. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, thank you all.
Let us move to 12 Boardman Avenue, map 24, lot 23, DEP file 39-925. And consistent with last meeting, we're going to stipulate that the required legal notices have been posted in the Cricket and sent to butters. So who's here tonight to present this to us?
It'll be me again, Sean McDonald, Griffin Engineering. I think John
Welcome back.
Bill is also here.
Yes, I'm here as well.
Okay. I can share my screen again here. Let's see. Okay. All right. Can everyone see?
Mhm.
Good.
Okay, so this is a notice of intent for some additions to a single family residence and some associated site improvements, 12 Boardman Ave. So this here is a GIS map of the area showing some flood zones and the property boundaries. Boardman Ave is up here on the top. There's a driveway that kind of comes down in front of this house here. It's a single family house, single story. This is the ocean down here. You can see there's some flood zones at this site. There's a V zone, which you see here in purple, and a smaller A zone here that's showing kind of cyan. Let's see. Here's a kind of a little better photo of the spot. So the applicant's proposing to construct some building additions on the house and to redo the patio in the backyard. Let's see, I have a site plan here. So as you can see, the red are the proposed improvements. There are 4 small building additions going on around the house, the hatched areas here. I think there's a total of about 300 to 400 square feet of building additions being installed. This brick patio is going to be converted to a pervious bluestone patio. We're also proposing a small spa right here. The square shown here is a spa, and then an outdoor shower on the side of the house. You can see here our coastal bank line comes pretty close to the house. That delineation was based on the FEMA flood zone elevation of 35 feet. That's the A zone here. This site is a little tricky because it's got a V zone and an A zone. The V zone runs along the seawall, and the A zone is kind of off on this neighboring property here. But you can see it's at elevation 35, which is pretty high in relation to the grades that are on this property. Typically, we like to draw the A zones at the contour that matches the base flood elevation. But in this case, it's a little more complicated. We actually have a LOMA request filed with FEMA to get additional information on that. But right now, as we've drawn it, the house is shown outside the flood area. But based on that elevation 35, the coastal bank ends up being pretty high on this lawn. So this is a lawn area. This is the top of the wall down here. This coastal bank ends up being pretty high, up to the house because of the way DEP defines the coastal bank. So it's the area below the base flood elevation that ceases to be greater than 10-to-1 slope. So that's what that line depicts right there. So
Wow.
it ends up being pretty close. I think if this base flood elevation was lower, it would be the seawall. So
Right.
it's really just because of the way FEMA defines that flood zone there.
And in practice, does water come over the seawall, say in those January southeasterly storms?
Um,
Do you want me to respond to that or?
sure.
So I've spent one winter there and no, the base of the house, as I understand, it's about 32, 33 feet above mean high water. And we have seen some storms. I've never seen water get even really to the base of the seawall other than a wave action. When the waves hit the rocks, the spray can come up onto the lawn, and there's some scouring effects on the lawn itself, but I've never seen water come up even to near the top of the seawall.
Good, thanks. Yeah, that is an unusual FEMA finding.
Yes. Yeah, so we we're expecting to hear back within the next couple weeks, maybe longer. I think they have 60 days to respond to us. I think we filed at the beginning of November with FEMA. So we're waiting to hear back from them. Let's see any other thing. I think I have some photos here of the site if you guys want to take a look. It's a single story house. This is the front looking down the driveway. Let's see in the backyard. That's another shot of the front of the house. This is the backyard. So at the top of that slope there is the brick patio that's going to be replaced. Some small building additions going in the corners. And here's a shot of the top of the seawall currently. Anything else here?
That was taken from the seawall, Sean?
Yeah, that's the top of the wall, looking out, along the wall. So standing down here, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question about, so there are 4 interior changes being made, and I understand that they may not physically impact the resource, but they're within our delineation area. What are the improvements being made in these small areas in the house?
Would you like me to address that, or?
Sure, yeah.
It's probably, so you're all looking at this plan, the areas to the left-hand side, which would be there, yeah, that's a small addition. The bathroom to the primary suite is quite narrow, and it has 1 sink and a shower, and it doesn't really it doesn't accommodate 2 people at a time. And my wife and I are hoping to age in place there, and so we wanted to have the ability to have more accessibility in that, and that bumps out in order to do that, there's that small addition to the side and in the front there that makes the primary suite have a little more space for closet and bathroom area. The area adjacent to the brick patio on the other side is where the kitchen is. The current kitchen is basically a pass-through kitchen or a galley kitchen, and our family gathers together and has lots of family celebrations and activities together, and the kitchen is rather tight for such a thing. So that was a proposed improvement to this space inside the kitchen. The other addition that you see there is to try to connect the house to the garage. We don't have a basement here. It's on a slab with about a 2.5 foot or 3 foot crawl space underneath it. And that small addition that's proposed between the garage and the house is to connect what's in the currently existing kind of a laundry room entranceway to the garage, to facilitate, into the winter time, especially getting from the house to the garage.
It's a walkway.
Yeah, we're trying to connect the house to the garage. And we did go through the zoning board of appeals because it's slightly over on the neighbors. The setback is fine if it's an auxiliary site, but to connect it, we needed to get that approval, which we obtained. So it's just trying to facilitate the house to the garage connection and give us a little more storage. There's no garage. There's really no storage really in the house. There's no basement, and the garage attic is pretty minimal space.
Great, thank you. And Sean, one more thing. Under your stormwater management, you talk about no new untreated discharges. What is the I couldn't figure out the drainage from the exterior shower.
The shower, I think, typically, so we know that there is some type of infiltration on the site. There are roof leaders that go into the ground, and we suspect that there is a dry well nearby. We just haven't located it yet. I think it's proposed to be found during construction. That's the same with the roof area from the proposed additions. That's all going to be tied into the infiltration system. I suspect the shower could be piped into that same system, given it probably it's not going to be used very frequently, I imagine. Excuse me. So I think piping it into the
All right. I think,
what was that?
yeah, I think we know where that goes. Or it'd be
Okay.
good to know where that goes, is what I should
Okay.
say.
Yep. I think we can make a note of that.
Thank you. That's all.
Any other questions, comments from the commission?
I have to say, this is one of my favorite houses in Manchester. And the additions are really very modest. So I like
Well,
the project.
I agree. It's, you know, the former owners, I think, wanted it to remain relatively like it is, and we wanted to, we liked it being you know, one floor essentially, and didn't want to do any major changes to it. But we do, you know, in light of, you know, a more current living arrangements, you know, it would be helpful to have a little more space. We're not actually making a larger primary suite for us to have as our bedroom, but it's just a little more space for storage and to get in and out of the bathroom, and all that. You know, hopefully we'll be there for the rest of our lives, and to make it accommodating for us as we age. Both the connection for the house to the garage and a little more space in the
Understood.
kitchen.
Anyone else interested in walking around this site to look at I'm particularly interested in the seawall and the
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful.
grading
Be
that leads
interesting.
up to it.
Well, no, I'm going to say no, only because the work is not, you know, the work is not directly impacting the seawall, I don't think.
Right, it's pretty minor
Okay.
additions. It's not just the seawall, Henry, it's this whole issue of the potential for flooding, not so
Yeah.
much over the seawall, but around that neighboring property and up into.
So we have to wait for the response from FEMA anyway.
Yes. Was that a Loma request?
It was, yep. It was a Loma. Yeah,
Yeah, they're
exactly.
usually pretty prompt on those, but
Yep.
I understand.
We have received some preliminary response indicating that they're going to show that it's removed, but we haven't got any confirmation yet. But so
Good. Yeah. Well, that would buy us time to walk around the site if others are interested, and if you're amenable, Dr. Gurley and consultants.
We are amenable to that if that's necessary. We're looking for help in this regard.
Well, we've fallen in the habit of doing that on Saturdays to allow our members who commute to get there. Would Saturday morning before Christmas?
It would be fine with us. We are available for that. The
Okay.
following Saturday would be more challenging for us.
Yeah, for me too. Commissioners,
Okay. So this
anybody
Saturday.
available for a walk on Saturday morning?
Yeah, I'll go,
Mhm.
just because I love that spot.
Returning to your source. Good. Shall we say 9 a.m.?
Sounds good.
Is that doable on your end, Sean, or one of your colleagues?
yes, that should be fine.
So I'll move with the applicant's consent that we continue this to our next meeting, which I am not entirely sure is what day in January. Anybody know?
January 6th.
6th or 7th?
Um,
Monday's the 6th, so it's the 7th.
well, it all depends which way we go.
Yeah, true.
So,
All right, so it's either January 7th or 14th.
yeah,
I'm gonna say January 7th. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Olga,
aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Henry,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
and the chair is an aye, so we'll see you folks at 9 a.m. on Saturday.
Thank you very much. We will
Thank you,
be there.
John. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Which brings us to our final NOI tonight, which is new from 110 Bridge Street, map 22, lot 6, DEP file 39-924. Prescott Logan and family.
Yep.
Relocate driveway, landscape, install a patio, change grades, replace the detached garage, remove a storage shed, renovate a barn, build a fence, maintain the stream, and put in native plantings. Again, we'll stipulate that the hearing has been properly noticed in the Cricket and that we are in receipt of abutters notices. And who's here tonight? Caitlin, is that your?
Good evening, Jay Blackers with Hancock
Jay.
Associates.
Perfect.
So
Thanks, Jay.
I'm representing the applicant in their notice of intent for, I'll just shorten it up to site improvements at 110 Bridge Street. So here with me tonight is Caitlin White from our Wetland Science Department, Hillary Holdsworth, who's the landscape architect, and Prescott Logan, who's the owner. So I will share my screen quickly. So the commission should have a little bit of familiarity with this site. A notice of intent was filed here back in 2022. So this is the existing conditions plan from that filing. During the notice of intent, this pool was removed. And then various landscaping and vegetation was cleared and pruned during that process. So, and just as a reminder for the resource areas on site, there's an intermittent stream here that runs basically along this entire property line. There's some BVW associated with that intermittent stream over here, and then there's a pond in back. So this intermittent stream drains Bridge Street, this portion of it, the catch basins, and then this field across the street, as well as the subject property. So here's the proposed site plan. So just to kind of hit on some of the bigger improvements that are going on at this site is this existing large bituminous concrete driveway that spans throughout the site and is within the 30-foot, 50-foot, and 100-foot zones that is to be removed and relocated to the northern portion of the site. Outside of the 100-foot buffer zone, except for a small portion over here. And it will also be replaced with pea stone, so it'll be permeable surface. With the removal of that large impervious area and replacing with a pervious material, we're going to be reducing peak rates of runoff and promoting recharge throughout this entire site. This entire site drains down to the stream, into the pond, and eventually drains out to the harbor. We conducted soil testing on this site. We found that the soils are hydrologic soil group D, meaning they're very high in silt and clay and do not infiltrate. Groundwater is also very high. As a result of this, the house has flooding issues and storm events. So for drainage, we're proposing a roof drain system that'll collect all the gutters throughout around the house, as well as an interior sump pump system. These will be collected via a network of pipes and will discharge down here to a riprap dissipation pad with a level spreader. So those items, or the level spreader and dissipation pad, will help cut down on the rate at which the stormwater comes out of the piping system, reduce erosion, and spread the flow evenly across the surface. This system is designed to mimic the existing drainage patterns, which is draining down to the intermittent stream over here, where this is roof runoff and some pump runoff. It's considered clean. This is not from vehicular surfaces. Back to some of the improvements around the property. The existing patio in this area is to be replaced with a new one. A small covered porch addition. The garage over here is to be repaired or rebuilt. The barn in this area is just going to be repaired so that it's structurally sound. A small planting garden area over here. But some of the bigger renovations that are happening throughout this site is the landscaping and invasive removal. So in these hatched areas over here, we're proposing to remove all of the invasives in these areas. The invasives will be replaced with native plantings. Native plantings will also go in the pond area over here. And Hillary will talk in a little bit more about the plantings and invasive removal. But the project is going to have a phased approach. It's just for budgetary reasons and order of operations. So phase one will be around the house, landscaping, house renovations, the drainage system, some grading over here to work with the new discharge. Phase two will be the invasive removal and native plantings, as well as the accessory building renovations. And then phase three will be the plantings around the pond area. And just to quickly touch on, we did get a few comments from DEP, which we've since addressed since the initial filing with the commission. We did issue these updated plans. The comments were about the planting area around the pond. They asked for a square footage of plantings, which we provided, 5,700 square feet. The other one was about the FEMA flood zone. Typically when we add FEMA flood zones onto our plan, we download the latest firm panel for the site, readily available on the FEMA website. However, DEP noted that there was a preliminary panel that included this property that was preliminarily approved in 2023 and asked us to update accordingly. This line here represents that new FEMA flood zone line. So the FEMA flood zone, it's a FEMA flood zone A, so no elevation associated with it, just the line that they produce. The old line used to go a little bit further out in this area. But the 2023 line coincides with this portion of the intermittent stream. And with that, I think I'll pass it along to Hillary, who can talk about the landscaping throughout the site.
Jay, the one detail I'd add to what you just said is we're also removing there's a roof that spans between the garage and so we have a little barn there. And we're eliminating that. We're eliminating that roof.
Is Hillary on here?
Yes, I am here.
Okay.
Good evening, commissioners. One thing I would add to that is that the impervious asphalt driveway that's being removed within resource areas amounts to 3,312 square feet. That's getting removed. And with this new bluestone granite terrace, we're getting a net gain of pervious area of 349 square feet. As far as plantings, everything and Jay, I'll let you sort of scroll through different plans as I'm blathering, but The riverfront, sort of the intermittent stream area is 100% native planting, as is the pond area. When we get closer to the house and outside resource areas, it's a mix. It's about 47 natives to plant species out of 75 total. A lot of this is outside the jurisdiction of Conservation Commission. Not sure what else I can add to that as far as I can rattle off specific. I will say the natives that are scheduled to be removed, some of them are pretty noxious, invasive, including Syringa reticulata, Norway maples. I can look at my own copy because I can see it better. Let's see.
Japanese lilacs.
Burning bush, yeah, the Japanese lilacs are the Syringa reticulata. Burning bush, privet, bittersweet, honeysuckle, all the bad guys. We plan to remove from that area.
And
In
Hillary,
favor
are you
of
making the bluestone and granite patio pervious?
Well, it'll have sort of 1/4 to 1/2 inch joints. So I'm not sure if that is a pervious spec.
No, but
But
what they're
it is-
filled with is a test.
I'm sorry.
The grout or what they're filled
Oh,
with.
the
is-
joints, stone dust. So that is pervious, yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna certainly ask for rice gravel or something larger, but not stone dust under any circumstance would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Not Henry's first rodeo
Right.
here.
Steve, that was polite, right?
Very.
Yeah.
You just like saying rice gravel, I can tell.
True.
Can we eat it? Just kidding.
Properly prepared, delicious. Well, I've had the benefit, which not all of you had, of 2 recent walks through here. One with Prescott Logan to kind of preview this whole extensive work, and then second with the folks who manage Winthrop Field, which is across Bridge Street, and which drains right through this property into Whittier Cove. And we were inspecting the whole drainage structure, which is very antiquated in Winthrop Field, and seeing how it functions on this property. So I can recommend the value of taking a closer look at this on the ground
Yeah.
to the rest of you, even if you were part of it 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It's going to be quite an undertaking, and it's worth looking at.
Okay, are you suggesting a Saturday site visit after?
I am, well, I didn't mean to cut off questions or
9:30?
comments. Sorry, Henry?
Oh, I just said, are you suggesting 9:30 on the 21st?
Yes, that sounds admirable if that's acceptable to Mr. Logan and the Hancock folks.
I can make that work. Prescott and Hillary are
Yeah.
you guys available then?
I can do
That'd
it
be-
too.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, it's a date. But are there other questions or comments besides rice gravel while we're here?
Well, this was a really nice project to read about. It's beautifully done. Thank you.
Write up is excellent. I cannot remember what the prospective timing is, or is it contingent on how long each phase turns out to take? Do you have an estimate of that, Jerry?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Sorry, I'm not used to using my laptop. So estimated completion of phase 1, June 2027. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, there we go.
We'll start phase 1 in June of next year. And it's estimated to be about 12 months.
And then the next phase will be completed around September 2028, and then the phase 3, which is the pond area planting, September 2029. So we wanted to do this all as one notice of intent to the commission, just to show everything that we're hoping to do out on this site and how we believe that it's a benefit to the resource areas. And just give an overall project idea.
Appreciated. Thank you. Is there any comment from the public on this 110 Bridge Street? I'm hearing none.
Could we get a clarification on what you just said? That phase one is going to start in June of 25 and take about a year and end in June of 26 or 27?
So the work on the house will start in June of next year, so June of 25. It'll take about 12 to 14 months, and then the landscaping will be done at the end of that. And I think just depending on how fast the house gets done and weather and all those kinds of things, we'll either finish the landscaping, the phase one landscaping work in the fall of 26 or the spring of 27. So we just
Okay,
picked the
thank
spring
you.
of 27. Yep.
Yep, good catch. Well, let me move with the consent of the applicant that we continue this to our next meeting, which is most likely January 7th, 2025. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Olga?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Henry?
Aye.
Gordon?
Aye.
And I'll make that unanimous. Thank you, Prescott and Jay and Hillary and Caitlin.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice night.
Thank you. We'll see you Saturday.
All right, now we move to our one RDA, which is 43 through 76 R Raymond Street. It's the beach raking of Gray Beach. And is there someone here tonight for this? I don't think so. I'm having a deja vu of Chris Bertoni having to speak for these people some years ago. David, do you remember that?
Yes, I do, distinctly. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering, Steve, rather than continue this again another month, if it's okay with the committee, I'll make some phone calls. These are all people that I'm familiar with, you know, neighbors of the Bath and Tennis Club or members. Somebody should show up in their behalf. Otherwise, it's going to have the same result as a couple of years ago.
Exactly. It'd be nice to get the cleaning done before the big storms hit.
Right. So I'll make a few phone calls, find out who's going to represent this group.
Okay, so I'll move in the meantime that we continue the RDA for 43 through 76 Raymond Street to our January 7th meeting. Second, thank you. All those in favor, Gordon?
Aye.
Henry?
Aye.
Olga?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And I'm unanimous. So now we move to new, old, and other business, which we'll try to keep brief because we're coming up on 2 hours. First is review and discussion of Conservation Commission fees. Anybody who hasn't taken a look at what Lydia came up with, she revised it, I think 10 days ago, or so maybe 2 weeks. What I like about it is that it makes our structure consistent with other towns and DEP, which has standard categories, which we had not been using fully. And it updates us to kind of the norm, so to speak, of most towns like us, and that it contains some decent behavioral cues, like you pay twice as much if you file after the fact for your NOI as you would if you filed before you start work.
Are we going to vote to approve this, Steve?
Yes, it's a regulation, so we have put it in the public hearing, and we can vote it, I think, tonight if we choose. The other aspect of it, and this is imponderable right now, we're looking still at sharing our new permanent administrator with Hamilton. We'll get the majority, maybe 60% or 2/3 of their time. Hamilton will get the remainder. But we may well end up with less hours. Probably we will end up with less hours than Chris Bertoni was able to commit, or Mary Riley before her. Now, we don't know how that's going to work out because we don't think that Kristen gave us a fair example of what's possible with high-performing administrator. And now we have Shannon Bianchi, who is rapidly moving into what I regard as really good capability for minutes and notices and other administrative stuff. And we have you, Mark Resnick, as land use czar, which includes planning and ZBA. But as Shannon said, the lion's share of what he's doing has been conservation, just because of our paperwork level. So I mention all that because it occurred to me that one thing we could do is raise up our rates considerably in order to create a surplus that we could use to obtain more hours of work from somebody. And I'm just not sure whether or not we're going to need to do that at this point. Just thought I'd mention it. What do others think?
I have a question. Let's say we raise more funds. Does that automatically entitle us to purchase more hours? Or do we need the approval of the FinCom and select board for doing so, the town manager?
Up till now, we have been able to vote to use our share of the state filing fees and our own local filing fees to supplement salaries. We've done that routinely once or twice a year for our administrator and our clerk, Eva and Chris most recently. And nobody has said, hey, wait, stop, you're spending our money. Because it's officially money that can be used for any of the purposes of the Wetlands Protection Act and the local bylaw. It is not available, for example, for controlling beavers, because that's something we decide to do on our own, or maintaining trails or kiosks. We have another fund for that, which doesn't, as you know, get replenished. But that conservation fund, the fee shared fund, whatever it's called, has been available for salaries.
So does FinCom take that into account when they're building the budget and say the source of these funds will be this percentage taxpayer property tax and this percentage from?
I think it's general. They probably should, but I think, Jeff, it's usually been kind of below their radar because we're not talking about 6 figures. We're talking about small 5 figures.
So in speaking with Chris Bertoni, because we had lunch with her last week, in Beverly, apparently they use the Wetlands Protection Funds, and they have someone that they've hired that does the site visits, the pre-construction visits, all kinds of stuff like that, which really helps. So
She was arguing over for that when
yes,
she was here.
when she was still
Right.
here, yes, because that's what they do in Beverly.
Yeah.
And because it's really hard to be out of the office and in the office.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, I am cautiously hopeful that Shannon will be the in the office presence and well schooled enough to be able to handle the give and take where people come in and say, can I do this with a permit? Do I need, this tree is threatening my house. My seawall fell down, etc. And if he can't, he can kick it over to Mark.
Yep, that's what happens now, so.
Yeah.
And then if they need to file, then they generally will call and talk to Lydia about what they need to submit for a notice of intent. So
I guess
I think for right now, just the regular salaries are in the budget, and that's the way it should remain. And then as we move forward and see what else is needed, then we can you know, use the fund as required, if at all, for that purpose. I think the fees.
I agree.
Yeah, the fees themselves that we've increased are reasonable based on the amount of work it takes to process and do a site visit and fill out the forms and that type of stuff. I mean, some of these fees were a little low, some are just fine the way they are. Pretty much by adjusting all these fees to where they are consistent with kind of the top range of similar towns. Most on the South Shore, but there's similar kind of communities to Manchester with coastal regions and expensive homes. So
Yeah, we don't have to wait 5 or 10 years to change these things. So if we found ourselves, in need of generating a surplus to have more hours, we could revisit this. So I agree with Mark. We should bring ourselves up to date, both in categories and in levels, and see what happens, over the next 6 months once we either engage Lydia for more hours or hire somebody else. Okay with everybody?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, then I will move that we accept the proposed new local fees for wetlands permits and associated applications. And I would add one thing that isn't on there, but Mark has pointed out, it's actually pretty important, that we raise to $100 our charge for the notices we place in the Cricket, because the Cricket presently charges us $60. We presently charge applicants $50, which does not cover the labor involved, let alone the fee. So Mark's suggestion was, let's put that at 100. That would be the only change to what Lydia has drafted.
Is that a
Is
motion?
there a
Steve?
second?
Second.
Thank you, David. Any further discussion or ready to vote?
Ready to vote.
All those in favor, Olga,
Aye.
Jordan,
Aye.
Henry,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Jeff.
Aye.
Good, it's unanimous, 6 in favor. Next subject is hunting in the Western Woods. We
Not
got
very
a
good.
call. Yeah, we got a call from MECT, which has a lot of property in the Western Woods, that the hunter was back and active and had a stand up in the trees, evidently in private property owned by Nancy Taylor Roberts, who had at some point given this guy permission. It's the same, evidently the same hunter from Gloucester who's come in before. But that hunting is not permitted in the Western Woods under any conditions, and none of the appropriate authorities have been consulted to tell the hunter that, or the property owner. The dilemma is that the environmental police can't enforce any local rules unless the land is posted by the town, which it wasn't at that point. And they can't, the local police aren't willing to go out there regularly. It's, it's not visible from roads, so they have to park their cruisers and tramp through the woods to see if the guy is there, which mostly he isn't. So we found out, they found unenforceable. The proposal was, one of the abutters was willing to take signs that say, posted, no hunting by town of Manchester, order of the Conservation Commission, or select board or whatever. And since that is in fact the rule, Mark and I agreed that we would accept that volunteer role, and I think those signs are up. So now when someone spots or hears the hunter, we can call the state environmental police, who are pretty serious about this stuff. They've stopped it 2 or 3 years ago, and they could do it again. I think that's where it stands, Mark, unless you have later news. Okay.
No, I have no other information. No one's called the office.
Good. In the meantime, Gordon asked, and we found out that there is hunting permitted with a permit from town hall and with written permission from the landowner, which is MECT, in a portion of Maple Swamp and Cedar Swamp, north of 128 and east of Pine Street. But of course, that's not where somebody wants to hunt.
It was helpful just to
Update
see
on-
the map. I wasn't aware of the restrictions in
Yeah.
the other parts of town and stuff, so it's good to see.
Update on to Normandy, which is that Chris LaPointe reports that they're likely expecting to close the transaction on January 6th.
Wow, that's
First.
wonderful.
First real legal day of the year. They've got their grants and donations in place, including the towns. They're excited about that. So they're preparing a P&S to transfer conservation rights to the town, and also a longer conservation restriction, which I've been through carefully, and I welcome anybody else who wants to read it. It's well written. It allows for the only unusual things are it allows for trail maintenance, both of single and double track cycling and walking trails, and also for the carriage roads, which are somewhat wider, which are the CR would allow to be maintained at 12 feet width. Also provides for, if they decide to, a fire tower on the top of the little gem of the property, which is, straight up off Colburn Road at the top of the hill. You can still, despite the trees having grown up, you can still see the ocean from that hill right now, and a tower would make it, quite an interesting destination for hikers.
And who would be
So-
responsible for the maintenance and liability of that tower?
It's all on
Greenbelt.
Greenbelt. Greenbelt owns and is responsible for maintenance and work and liability. We're just responsible for the limitations that the CR imposes. He also confirmed that once we accept it, and the fact that they've accepted land trust money from the state, it automatically gets Article 97 protection, which is, as we know, the gold standard. So those are good things.
Great.
Yeah. The only other thing I have is that some observant individual, who shall by their request remain nameless, noted that at least one house on Pleasant Street, on the north side of Pleasant Street, seems to be kind of filling in their backyard, which is actually Millet's Swamp, to allow them to park vehicles back there. And that's, that could be a problem for two reasons. One, we're filling wetland, and number two, they're parking vehicles. So that's on the radar. The address is 59 Pleasant, corner of Old Essex, kind of. And the owner is a member of the Santos Electric family, which has come to our attention before because they tend to park their great big pickup trucks in the spaces which would otherwise be available for people to hike in Powder House on Pleasant. But they're not unique in that. The whole neighborhood.
Cease and desist is that too strong at this stage, or should we just, is that appropriate?
It could be. It might be simpler to
Steve,
follow the approach of we're taking with 68 Pine, which is to say, we believe this is unpermitted. Please come in and explain it to us, or file your after the fact NOI.
It was not at tonight's meeting nor our last meeting.
No.
Steve, is this new activity that's happening there? Because I know there was gravel put back there years ago. And I walk my dog frequently. I hadn't noticed anything happening lately, but
Apparently there's a bunch of plywood or some other more temporary surface that extends the driveway back now. And
okay.
I don't know how
Okay.
new that is, but that's what,
Okay.
I think it was that triggered somebody commenting on it to us.
Okay.
Yeah, Henry, you're right. We're not getting, we're getting no respect. So,
Well, the letter was just sent, right? In the last 2 weeks.
yeah,
So it hadn't been
that's
sent
true.
the first time.
Probably got lost in the Christmas cards, I think.
Well,
You talking about 68 Pine, or you talking about?
yeah, 68
Old
pounds.
Essex?
Yeah,
It's
We
followed.
talked to,
yeah, 68 Pine was sent out about 10 days ago.
okay.
That's
So-
enough time.
We do need to talk about the, how we want the meetings.
Calendar is the last item, yes.
Well,
on
can
my
we
list.
finish 68 Pine? Is there any further
1059
action we
Pleasant,
want to
yeah.
take?
What do you think we should do on 68 Pine? Another letter? An
I
actual
think we
visit?
should wait right after the holidays, and if we don't get a response, follow up.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna calendar that for like the 3rd or the 4th. I
Yeah,
think the 4th is a Saturday, so 3rd is Friday. Okay, and 59, I'll confirm the owner and draft a similar letter.
Yeah, sounds
I mean,
good.
we don't have any proof that we're gonna catch more flies with honey here than with a fly swatter, but the fly swatter doesn't work particularly well either, so let's try it. On to calendar. Shannon worked up a version of the every 2 weeks, which I think was more like kind of first and third Tuesdays of
Yeah.
each month, so 24 meetings. And then at that lunch social event with Olga and Suri and Chris Bertoni, Chris gave them the Beverly schedule, which runs on a 3-week interval, and I think you've seen the email. And the logic for that, of course, Chris Bertoni has logic for it, is that it's consistent with the 21-day deadline for handling new applications for NOIs and RDAs. So it jives nicely with, each meeting is the deadline for, is the start of the, anyway, too late at night. But anyway, it works well with the requirement that you have your documentation, your permit application in, which I know has been a headache that Mark and Shannon have been kind of wrestling with. How much time ahead of the meeting do we need to have stuff in order to deal with it at that meeting?
I mean,
Yeah.
we have done every 3 weeks for 100, well, however
Yeah.
long I've been on the commission. And the only reason we adjusted it was to accommodate Kristen, who was not very adjusting to us. So my vote would be to go back to every 3 weeks. It's 7 meetings less a year. And as far as
Also every 3 weeks. My vote is for 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that too.
Okay.
I agree as well.
Any objections, Jeff, David?
I just
Three is fine.
hope that we talk less so that it doesn't become a midnight hour sessions.
Yeah, we haven't had any
getting
marathon
efficient.
sessions on the 2-week schedule.
On the
but
2
we
week
also had
schedule,
relatively-
we've been able to complete business usually within 2 hours.
Yeah, and we've had pretty
I
light
don't think
agendas.
it's gonna affect our efficiency. We need to
Mhm.
get more efficient, whether it's 3 weeks or 2 weeks.
Agreed.
Remember, we try to timekeeper, and we may go back to that. Okay, so the 3-week schedule has us beginning on what day? Olga?
14th.
14th.
Yep.
Okay. And we should, at the site visit, notify the folks we're talking that that's our new meeting date.
Mhm.
Good. Anything else under new, old business? No minutes that I'm aware of.
I will not be able to attend that meeting.
The 14th.
Right.
Where are you going?
I will be in Colombia, South America.
Oh,
Well, they have internet there.
Good coffee down there.
It's kind of the same time zone too.
I will not be able to attend that meeting. I will be in the cloud forest, busy.
Nice.
okay.
Well,
Okay.
have fun.
All right, are
Excellent.
you ready for me to have us adjourn?
I think so. Anything else not yet discussed? Good. Good
So,
work tonight.
move that we adjourn and happy Merry Christmas and happy holidays.
Amen.
Likewise. Thanks, everybody.
God bless us,
Second,
everyone.
and ditto.
Bye, guys.
Thank you,
Bye.
Mark.
Yep, bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night.
Oh, and thank you, Affordable Housing Trust, for yielding the platform.
I don't think they can hear you.
No, they can't.